for being here this morning. I hope you had a nice long weekend this past weekend, and I hope that if you have anyone in your family who started school recently, that things are going well and they're off to a great start. We're here today to discuss the Prenatal to 3 community grant. During our presentation today, I will be covering these items, an info session protocol, an overview of this grant. We'll have an opportunity for participant questions and responses, and we'll have a nice closing. Participants will not be able to speak during the presentation. I encourage you to use the chat function to ask questions as they come up, and I'll respond to them during the question and response segment following the presentation. And it's very important to me that the information I provide in this info session is accurate. So if a question requires further research, I will make sure that I let you know, and the answer will be provided within 72 hours of this presentation on the Deal Funding Opportunities webpage. The session is being recorded, so if you don't want to have your face showing, you can, again, I welcome you to turn your camera off. That will be fine. So these are the presentation topics. We're going to start with sort of a overview of the funding opportunity itself. A little bit about the Prenatal to 3 request for proposals. It's funded and supported by the sweetened beverage tax. On June 6, 2017, the Seattle City Council passed an ordinance, a tax collected on the final distribution of sugar-sweetened beverages by a distributor. It was designed to improve the health of Seattle residents by reducing the sales and consumption of sugary drinks. The revenue generated by the tax is intended to fund programs that increase access to healthy food and support children's health and development. The ordinance also established the Sweetened Beverage Tax Community Advisory Board, or CAB, and which is a group to advise and make recommendations to the mayor and city council on initiatives supported by the beverage tax revenue. In June of 2019, the CAB conducted a series of community engagement activities meant to capture the voices of residents. The focus of the engagement was around programs and services relating to food access, food insecurity, child development, and early learning. And at the beginning of 2020, the Community Advisory Board heard from the Human Services Department, the Department of Education and Early Learning, and the Office of Sustainability and Environment about the investments currently supported by the Sweetened Beverage Tax funds. The Community Advisory Board recommended a public funding opportunity intended for community organizations that specialize in high-quality prenatal to 3 and kindergarten readiness services that seek to reduce the disparities in outcomes for children and families based on race, gender, or other socioeconomic factors. The City of Seattle currently funds, through revenue from the Sweetened Beverage Tax and the City General Fund, programs in the Prenatal to 3, including home visiting, developmental supports, child care health consultation, child care subsidies, and quality supports for child care. All of the current Prenatal to 3 investments seek to address racial equity gaps and support families and caregivers. This funding program is intended to strengthen the city's work in Prenatal to 3 with the core premise that organizations that center community in their work are best positioned to understand the program and interventions that will close the persistent opportunity gaps in Seattle. This funding opportunity is intended to be accessible and low barrier. The city has contracted with community-based technical assistance providers to support proposal development, as well as providing language access supports as needed. A little bit more about that in the near future. So eligibility for funding, who can apply? Entities that center the needs of priority populations, which are identified as BIPOC, immigrant, refugee, low income, and emerging bilingual speaking communities. Organizations with missions to serve children aged birth to 3, pregnant individuals, and or guardians of children aged birth to 3 within the city of Seattle are encouraged to apply. One question that comes up is if you are an organization that operates outside the city of Seattle, like your office is not in the city, maybe in Renton or in Tukwila, but you serve families and communities in the city of Seattle, people are curious if they can, if they're still eligible to apply. And as long as you're serving people in the city of Seattle, it does not matter where your office is located. It's about who you're serving that is sort of, that is the most important. Community-based organizations that are incorporated as nonprofits are eligible to apply, and unincorporated organizations can also apply, but are required to identify a fiscal sponsor for the proposal. What kind of proposals are ineligible for this funding? Proposals that provide quality supports or subsidies for licensed childcare are not eligible. Proposals that solely focus on supporting general operations of an organization. Proposals that are without a central focus on prenatal to age 3, and proposals that are focused on political lobbying. These are the 4 types of proposals that are not eligible for this funding. So how much money is available? We have approximately $1.4 million available for this grant cycle, and applicants are eligible to apply for a maximum of $150,000 with a minimum request of $10,000. So anywhere between $10,000 and $150,000. Some of the desired outcomes of this investment, the things that we hope will result from the investments in community-based organizations are healthy and equitable births, parental health and emotional well-being, access to needed services, sufficient household resources, nurturing and responsive child-adult relationships, optimal child health and development. And some examples of programs or initiatives that seek to address disparities are maternal health programs, doula and or pregnancy supports, home visiting and or home-based supports, parent education and or parent mental health support, developmental screening, assessment, and or evaluation, enhancements to existing initiatives that would increase access, and informal messaging campaigns. And these are just examples. They are not meant to be, they're not, these are not the only programs or initiatives that are welcome, but just meant to illustrate further the types of proposals that we believe will result in these desired outcomes. So the funding prioritization, how proposals are prioritized in terms of which ones will be funded and which ones will not be funded, they fall into 2 categories. The first category is applicant organizations with the following characteristics will be prioritized for funding. Organizations that are representative of and primarily serving priority communities, organizations that have smaller budgets, smaller number of staff, and organizations that demonstrate an authentic connection to the community they plan to serve. So these types of organizations that apply, they are likely to they will be prioritized over organizations that do not have these characteristics. So really large organizations that maybe have a national footprint with hundreds of staff and budgets of millions of dollars would still be eligible as long as they meet the eligibility criteria I mentioned earlier, but they will be prioritized under smaller organizations, those with not hundreds of staff around the country or hundreds of staff around the state or hundreds of staff even in the city of Seattle with really, really, really large budgets. We are prioritizing smaller sort of grassroots, hyper-local organizations. And the second of the two prioritizations fall into the projects or are focused on projects that demonstrate the following. First, clearly outline and support how their work will positively impact the priority communities and meet the grant program outcomes. Projects that address an unmet need in the community, and projects that describe a strong connection between the proposed work and one or more of the grant's desired outcomes. So projects that don't address an unmet need will still be eligible, but they will be prioritized under projects that do address an unmet need, for example. So we're moving on to the second of the topics related to the RFP, and we'll be reviewing a timeline. The technical assistance period has started. I had mentioned previously how the Department of Education and Early Learning has contracted with technical assistance providers who are available to support community-based organizations in preparing their proposals. And that period runs from yesterday all the way until the day that the applications are due, September 21. And the application review period is September 22 to September 30th. There is a period of 3 days, September 26th to September 28th, where the people or the review panelists will have an opportunity to ask questions if anything is unclear in the proposals that they review. And during these 3 days, the 26th, the 27th, and the 28th, we will be reaching out to applicants with those questions to seek clarification. So it's important that you have identified on your application a point of contact or primary contact who will be available to respond in this period of time. The notification letters are sent on October 7th. We send notifications to every primary contact who submitted a proposal. So if your proposal was selected for funding, you'll get a notice. If your proposal was not selected for funding, you will still get a notice. And they are emailed to the primary contact on your application. There is a 4-day appeal period. And any applicant wishing to appeal the decision must do so in writing within 4 business days of the email notification of DEAL's decision. An appeal must clearly state a rationale on one or more of the following criteria only. And there are 2 criteria. First, if you believe that there was a violation of policies or guidelines established in the RFP process, or secondly, if you believe that there was a failure to adhere to published criteria and or procedures in carrying out the RFP process. And I'll note that disagreeing with the outcome is not a valid reason to appeal the decision and will not be considered. But if you believe that either of the 2 that I mentioned previously, failure to adhere to published criteria or violating policies or guidelines established in the RFP, then you are welcome to appeal the decision 4 business days from the date of the email notification. From the period of October 19 to October 21st, I will make myself available to relay some comments and feedback from the review panelists about your specific proposal. And you'll receive more information about this in the notification letters. The spirit of this is the Community Advisory Board really believes that feedback that you receive will then help you to strengthen your proposal and strengthen your chances of being funded in subsequent years. So this is really about continuous quality improvement and helping community to have their ideas supported and funded by the city. And so I would be reaching out to interested applicants, and we will schedule a time to meet for about a half an hour between the 19th and the 21st. Let's see. The contract development period is October 19 to November 30. And during this period, we established the scope of work, which includes the project deliverables and timeline. And we co-design program evaluation and make a plan for that. And the third part of contract development is the submission of financial documentation. And this is financial documentation. It's paperwork that's required to receive money from the city. And it's a bit of a pain, especially if you've never received funding from a government entity. But we intend to support you the whole way in locating those documents, things like W-9s, business licenses, equal benefits compliance forms, insurance coverage. Those are things that are necessary, unfortunately, for receiving funding from the city. But all of that occurs between the 19th and the 30th of November, which is over a month. It takes quite a while. And then the contract period is from December 1 of 2022 and runs for 12 months until the end of November in 2023. So some tips about the RFP timeline. I think that I would reach out to technical assistance providers as soon as you can, because they're so wonderful. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in, actually next. But I would reach out to them as soon as you can. Bookmark the Prenatal to 3 webpage, linked on Deal's funding opportunity site, so you can refer to it. Create calendar notices with the dates outlined in this timeline. So when the period of technical assistance is occurring, the Q&A period, the final day to submit your RFP application. Those are just tips that I think are helpful. And Cassandra is so wonderful. She put in the chat the address to our webpage where you can find this information. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking about the documents on the RFP webpage. We're going on a deep dive of these documents. This might look familiar to you. It's our Prenatal to 3 community grant webpage. And I would bookmark this page for easy and quick access. The first document under how to apply is the technical overview. And this presentation it comes from this document. So if you attend this presentation, it's sort of like reading the document, but if you want, you can reference it. And then the second document is the application submission document. And here I have it in Word, and I use Word because I can type directly in the document, and that would be my advice to you. I think it's available in PDF in case you don't have Word as a program on your computer, then you can print it out. But here's an example of a proposal. And here, instead of checking the boxes, I highlighted it. You can highlight it or check it or whatever it is you want to indicate your responses. The application is 3 pages long. So this is the organizational and program information page. And this is page 2. It's the narrative portion of the application, which consists of 4 questions. Please try to keep your responses to a page or less. And the reason for this guideline is twofold. First, this RFP was created to be a low barrier funding opportunity for small grassroots hyper-local efforts to provide community-informed solutions to community identified challenges. The questions were constructed to require only the information necessary to determine alignment with the Sweet and Beverage Tax Community Advisory Board's funding principles. We don't want you to be spending dozens of hours on your proposal, which is why we established a guideline for the length. And it's a guideline. So if you go over a page, that's okay. Or if you're under a page, that's wonderful. It's just a guideline to help you to know that if you're getting at the end of the page and you haven't gotten to the you haven't responded to the question, then you should probably work with a technical assistance provider they can help you sort of like focus your writing. And the second reason for the guideline is that proposals are reviewed by deal partner agencies and community members. Many, if not all of the community members have competing priorities, much like you do. They have obligations like full-time jobs, families, or school to which they must attend, and keeping those responses within the stated length guidelines minimizes the number of hours that they will spend supporting this effort. I always am afraid that our community members will get burned out because they're reading sometimes hundreds of pages. So I think that sticking to the 1-page guideline, approximate 1 page, would be really helpful. And if you would like to supplement your responses with documents that support or illustrate your responses, feel free to include them here. And any supplementary documents are not included in the page count. So if you have, for number 1, this funding is intended to support priority populations, BIPOC communities, immigrant communities, refugee communities, people with low income, emergent bilingual communities. Describe how your organization's leadership and project staff reflect the culture and demographics of the community you seek to support. So in addition to that narrative, maybe you have a page. If you wanted to print out you have a staff picture or a board picture, and it shows that the people in leadership or the people on the staff represent the communities, that they reflect the communities that they are hoping to serve. Sometimes you can list names, but pictures can also be very helpful. So that's just an example. And this is page 2. Page 3 is a acknowledgement of the COVID-19 vaccine requirement for City of Seattle contractors. Here you would read this paragraph and click on any of the links that are relevant if you need the how-to guide. And here's a sample of the attestation form. All we would need from you here is that you have read the requirements and that you understand them and that you agree to comply if you are funded. And then a signature will name and signature, and this name and signature reflects information of the whole application, not just this piece right here. So this is page 3 of the application. The next document is the budget submission sheet, and you have to use this specific form. It helps us to compare one budget to another. And again, if you don't have experience with budgets, it's a really good idea to reach out to the technical assistance providers. They are at no cost to you, and Deal feels that in this investment has, in just the first year that we've used it, has the return on this investment has been incredible, and I feel like I will never feel good about operating or releasing a funding opportunity without these wonderful supports. And I will be talking about them next. Reaching out for assistance. There are 2 ways that you can reach out for assistance. The first way is through emailing the Deal funding email address. And this would be for questions around interpreting the text of the RFP, technical overview, any mechanics of submitting the proposal, finally, the responses provided through the Deal Funding Opportunities webpage within 3 to 5 business days. So there's a little bit of a delay. You don't have your answer right away, but we do work really hard to update those in less than 3 to 5 business days. The second avenue of support that, and I keep talking about it, I apologize that I waited until now to talk more about it, is through technical assistance. And not only can they help with the pieces that I had mentioned for in emailing, like interpreting the text or understanding the mechanics of submitting the proposal, but they can do so much more. And I believe that we have on this call, we have Catherine and we have Jing, and I would just welcome both of you to please share with the group the kinds of things that you have done to support community. And this, I think we'll start with Catherine because your picture's first.
Hello, everyone. I see some familiar names on this call. You've got 3 trusty technical assistance providers. We have all been doing this for many, many years. And so the first thing I'll say is our role is to help you tell your story. So to get your ideas out and to make them competitive and clear. We don't have any insight behind the curtain of how decisions are made or influence. We work for you on that and, getting that out. And so I think as Tiffany referenced, we can provide any level of support, sort of soup to nuts, whether it's I got this idea, is it worth our time? Does it match? And so we can talk to you about that through really developing your ideas, reading drafts, making sure it's cohesive, responsive, as Tiffany said, kind of looking at helping you think through your budget, make sure it makes sense, and really just making sure that everything is cohesive. And can't say enough, we're free. We're a service to you, so make use of us. We really do see a difference as we work with providers. We're extra eyes, we're extra hands, and we're here to support you. So, and I think Jean can say a lot more than that. So, and welcome everyone. I'm glad to see you all are interested in this proposal.
Hi, I'm Jing Fong, and I'm with RHL Consulting, and we're a team of 5 providers who support organizations like yours who are applying for government funding, or we also provide capacity building in fundraising, IT, strategic planning, board coaching, management coaching, and so wanted to say that, like Catherine said, the 3 TA providers here are here to help you and will help you tell your story in your own voice, in your best way. I think to add to what Catherine said, I would highly encourage anybody, even if you do have support and resources on your staff, to use the TA providers. We meet you where you are, who you are. And, writing can be a really touchy thing. It's very personal. And so some people feel super comfortable with writing, and some people, for a variety of reasons, don't feel as comfortable. So our role is to meet you where you are from the very beginning, establish rules for, or just ways of communicating with each other. Some people like to learn by doing. Some people want to be coached more closely. We're here to make you feel as comfortable as you can, and really to tell your best story. So as Catherine also said, we help you. We can do everything from flesh out your idea, because sometimes your idea doesn't necessarily meet the criteria. We're here to also walk you through the criteria to make sure that you spend your energy um, on the priorities that the RFP puts out. And also the budgets. I mean, but I don't know about you, but numbers can be really scary to people. So we're here to walk you through that and make sure that your narrative meets the budget. The reviewers don't want to be surprised by things that appear in your budget that don't appear in your narrative, and vice versa. You don't want to tell a story and then it's like, well, where are the numbers for that? If you have a great idea and there are no expenses for your supplies, where is that coming from? So we're here to help you out with that.
Thank you both so much for sharing that. Here are a couple more. I just wanted to add that not only are the technical assistance providers wonderful in supporting community. If you looked at the application last year and so you're familiar with that, and you looked at the application this year and it looks a little better, it's because of the TA providers. They provided so much feedback about the proposal last year, and were able to help the city really understand the hangups and confusions that the language or the length or the format or the order or the flow, how that sort of worked out last year. And if it seems better this year, I attribute it almost entirely to the feedback from the TA providers. That was so helpful. Also, I found that as a team, they work really well together as a team. We meet weekly, and it's nice to hear them coordinate. Sometimes one of them knows more about a particular area, and so they might recommend that an organization work with that TA provider, or if one person has too many that they can't handle, then they sort of redistribute it. I mean, it's just a wonderful team, and every one of them are so supportive. And I wish that I were a community-based organization so I could apply just so I could work with them. So I just feel, yeah, I'm excited for all of you to reach out to them. All right, so moving along, this next portion is on submitting your proposal. As I mentioned previously, applications will be reviewed for technical compliance to verify that it was submitted complete and on time. DEAL reserves the right to reject any application that is late or incomplete. And that is true. And it's also a good reason to submit it before the 21st, because if it comes in early and we conduct the technical compliance and see, like, maybe the signature wasn't there or the budget template was missing, then we're able to give that feedback. We really want to be as inclusive as possible. In a previous capacity as a nonprofit program person, I had applied to many funding opportunities really around the country. And this one in Massachusetts that I applied for was like 120 pages that I had to read. And I worked really hard on it. And when I submitted it, it wasn't complete, but I didn't get any feedback. So the proposal wasn't even considered. So I feel like we're really in a position where we want to include as many proposals for consideration. We're not about excluding or making them ineligible. We really would like to see as many applications as possible. The application may be deemed not technically compliant or not to be evaluated further if the checklist items are absent or incomplete. So here on the screen we have that it was submitted on time, September 21st before 5 p.m. to this deal funding website. So that would be either yes or no. And I just recommend that if possible that you do submit it a few days earlier or as early as you possibly can. The second thing is are these 4 pieces complete and present? So the first would be the application itself and the acknowledgement of the COVID vaccine requirement, the signature of authorized representative, and the budget template. And the budget template is not, it's not scored, but if a budget template is not present and complete, then the whole application is not able to be reviewed. So this is how you, when you submit your proposal, how we conduct our technical compliance. Lastly is the proposal review process. And I had mentioned previously that the review panel consists of community members, Sweet and Beverage Tax Community Advisory Board members, and city staff. And the city staff is not just in the Department of Education and Early Learning. We have partners from the Parks Department, from HSD, from the Department of Neighborhoods, from the Office of Environment and Sustainability. It's really about community members who have a deep understanding of the prenatal to 3 period, and also have an understanding of this this particular funding opportunity because it is so unique. We train our review panel. The review panel receives an anti-bias training in addition to training on scoring the proposals so that everyone starts from the same place. And the proposals are assessed through the lens of the priority criteria outlined in the RFP technical overview. And I reviewed it previously. There are 2 areas. One is the organization itself that is applying, if the organization reflects the communities that they hope to serve, and if they also demonstrate that they have deep connections to the community. And secondly is on the proposal, if the proposal is aligned to the ideas and values of both the funding opportunity as well as in the prenatal to 3 outcomes list that I had presented previously. So this is an opportunity for me to sort of catch my breath and hear from you any questions that you have. And again, I'll try my hardest to respond, but if I don't have an answer, because I really want you to have the most accurate information, I'll let you know that I need to get back to you, and you'll have an answer within 72 hours. So just if you do have a question, you can type it, or you can put your hand up, or just unmute yourself and start talking. Yesterday, there was a question about if it was okay if 2 organizations partner to present a proposal together, and that's absolutely possible. And And actually in the community advisory board, that was sort of part of their vision, because they really had hoped that very small grassroots organizations apply. They appreciate that they may not have the infrastructure or the have everything that they need to execute a contract like this. So partnering with an organization that that does have that, maybe capacity in collecting data or in reporting outcomes. Maybe even if they have an idea and want to work with another organization that has experience implementing work like that. So that's totally possible and encouraged. I think that was the only question from yesterday. But it doesn't seem like anyone here has questions. Oh, yes, Jing.
This is just a follow up on what you, the question that you received yesterday. So if there are two organizations that want to partner, I'm assuming that one of them will have to be the lead. However, in the application?
Yes, because you would, yes, that's an excellent question. What one organization would need to be the lead and identify their primary contact. That's a really good point. All right. In closing, I just wanted to remind you that you have this opportunity to submit any questions to this deal funding email address. But you also have the opportunity to reach out to our wonderful, talented, brilliant technical assistance providers. Proposals must be submitted on or before the 21st at 5 p.m. I really encourage you to submit it early. Submit the applications to the same email address with the subject line titled as Prenatal PN3 Community Grant Program. And if you would like to submit a printed application in person, send us an email 24 hours in advance so we know to pick that up from our office.
Tiffany, can I ask a question before you close?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, how would it fall as far as meeting criteria if an organization was developing, say, curriculum and materials and also distributing it to other partner organizations? Does that fall under direct services, or is that a different kind of application?
No, I think that's very appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah, if they were developing curricular materials, yeah, that's as long as it meets the other criteria where the curricular materials were focused on the prenatal to 3, like it's supporting families during that time. But yeah.
Thank you.
Also, that makes me, for some reason, it makes me think of a question from last year. Organizations wanted to know if they could use some of the money for administrative expenses. And in the RFP, it's so long, so I understand if you haven't read or seen this, but you can use up to 25% of the funding for administrative costs, which is, I understand, a little bit more than typical funding opportunities, but the Sweet and Beverage Tax Community Advisory Board believed that it was important to invest in administrative costs, especially as you're a small organization trying to get started. That's something that is really helpful to have. Thank you for your questions. Yeah, and thank you for being here. And I meant to open with this. I know that presumably everyone who's here is here because they support the prenatal to 3 time period. And because it means so much to me, I just want to express my gratitude for being in communities and doing what you do, and I wish you the best of luck, and I really can't wait to read your proposals. I hope you have a wonderful day. Yay, bye.